Hello there, this is Out Motorsports. My name is Jake and this is the 2021 GMC Yukon AT4. The Yukon is a nameplate that's been around for decades at this point alongside its platform mate, the Chevy Tahoe, and it's very popular for a good reason. Plenty of people love these trucks for hauling a whole bunch of people and things and also being able to take trailers with them. They've all got fairly high tow ratings and they're generally pretty good as far as tow vehicles go. But for 2021, GMC added a special off-road model, and that is this AT4. This is but one trim level of the Yukon lineup. You still have the regular, more street-focused Yukons all the way up to that super luxurious Yukon Denali. This is the AT4, and we're here at beautiful Virginia International Raceway. I'm here for two different events. I'm here for Track Advantage, which is a smaller group that runs events right before the National Autosport Association tends to run them. And of course, I'm also here for NASA's Hyperfest. That is our huge event every year that we put on for the Mid-Atlantic region. People come from all over the area. You have a lot of drivers and spectators. It is super fun. So of course, to get here, I had to tow my new race car down. As you may have seen on the channel, my purple 404 E36 M3 is long gone and I had to replace it with something else. So that'll be revealed in a separate video, but of course I had a full trailer and had to get it here somehow. So GMC offered up this Yukon AT4. So let's talk about what this AT4 is, and then we'll talk about how it is as a tow vehicle. Plenty of people are going to talk about how these are as family vehicles, as off-roaders, as general transportation, and not a lot of people talk about towing, but if you care, this all matters a whole lot. So let's get into it. Now, before we get too far into this, please take a second, subscribe if you haven't already. We really appreciate all that support. So with that, on to the Yukon AT4. So like I mentioned, this is the more off-road focused version of the Yukon, and it's got a couple different things. It's got different bumpers, it's got some skid plates, it's got better approach and departure angles. It comes on these Goodyear Wrangler all-terrain tires versus a more highway tire that you would get on the other trims of Yukon. And it's got a couple other touches for things like the software that runs the four-wheel drive system, all that good stuff. Now, as far as drivetrain in this Yukon AT4, for 2021, you can only have the 5.3 liter V8, which makes 355 horsepower and 383 pound-feet of torque. And that 5.3 liter V8 is paired to the standard now GM 10-speed automatic transmission. And of course, with the AT4 being the off-road focused model, you're going to have a standard four-wheel drive system with a 2-speed transfer case. Now, the Yukons can tow a various amount of weight based on how they're equipped, but in this case, the AT4 is rated for 8,200 pounds with 10% tongue weight on that trailer hitch. You can tow up to 8,400 pounds if you have a different trim of Yukon. I'm not quite sure where that is in the lineup, but you're close to max towing capacity with this Yukon. As far as suspension is concerned, you do have standard four-corner air suspension, which is something that they haven't really done on the Yukons in the past. They've done rear airbags, but never a four-corner air ride. So you have that combined with the really, at this point, famous GM MagneRide setup. So those are shock absorbers with a magnetic particle fluid in the shocks, and it lets them get stiffer or looser based on your driving, and it lets them react really quickly to changing road conditions and whatever you're doing with driving. So that is kind of the basics of this truck. Now let's get behind the wheel and see how it is with this trailer hooked up. For some reference, this trailer is aluminum construction. It is a 20-foot box with a 4-foot V-nose, and fully loaded with my race car and all my crap in the back, it weighs about 7,000 pounds. So let's see how it is behind the wheel of this Yukon AT4. All right, so let's talk towing with the 2021 GMC Yukon AT4. First up, you can probably hear the engine working under the hood. It's wound out to about 4,000 RPM here. This is the 5.3 liter in this particular truck, and for 2021, all Yukon AT4s only came with the 5.3 liter V8, which is a fine engine for most people doing most things, but with a trailer hooked up, it could use a little more power and torque. And in GM's world, the way you solve that is by picking either the 6.2 liter V8, or now they have this 3 liter turbo diesel 6-cylinder. And you cannot get the diesel in the Yukon AT4, apparently because of how the skid plates are and the front end. It's a slightly different front end versus a regular Yukon. But GMC did confirm for 2022, you will be able to get the 6.2 liter V8, which is gas only. There's no hybridization or turbochargers or anything. It's just a straight up naturally aspirated gas V8. You can get the 6.2 in the Yukon AT4. So if you're really looking to have the AT4 trim level of Yukon, if you get a 2022, you can have the 6.2 liter. You don't have to have the 5.3. Obviously, if you go outside of the AT4 trim level, there's several others you can pick from, you know, towards the bottom of the range or all the way up to the Denali. And in those cases, you can get a variety of engine offerings, whether it's the 5.3, the 6.2, or the turbo diesel. Now, as far as the AT4 in particular, I don't think this is necessarily the best platform here for towing a big trailer. And people are going to be bent out of shape about that because it's a GM truck, and every GM truck can, you know, tow 1,000,000 pounds over its stated weight and be okay. The AT4 is, it's pretty soft, and that is not great for towing a big enclosed trailer like what I've got here. You know, and that's expected with the AT4 because this is the Yukon for people who want to go off-roading. And on the East Coast, this is going to be a fairly large vehicle for the trails we tend to have. But if you're out west and you've got, you know, a desert to go play in, or just more wide open space, this might be the vehicle for you to buy and, you know, take your camper and go camp in the desert for a week and you know, bring your side-by-side and go play, or something like, you know, what you see on YouTube, in my case, of people doing out west. That looks really fun. And so the AT4 is, you know, built more for that. It's got air suspension that will raise up and down based on the drive mode you're in. If you're off-roading, it kicks it up a little bit. And if you're in the tow haul mode, I believe it locks it so it won't go up and down. It's typically what those do. But regardless, you still have your damper rates, you still have your spring rates, you know, even with the airbags, they have rates effectively. And the whole thing is just a little soft. And when you're passing an 18-wheeler or splitting the gap between two 18-wheelers on the highway, you get pushed around a good bit with the enclosed trailer. It's not unsafe, but it is a little uncomfortable. It is similar in feel with this same trailer behind me to what I felt with the Toyota Land Cruiser a few months ago. Both vehicles, you know, are set up for this and set up for this kind of weight, but they're both a little soft. So I think if you're looking for the off-road capability and the towing capability, then sure, get the AT4 and just understand it's going to be a little soft. And if you have an enclosed car trailer or a camper behind you, it's just going to want to catch some of that, you know, it's called wind wake, where you get pushed a little bit side to side by a passing 18-wheeler or something like that. If you're not going to be doing all the off-roading, I think the AT4 plays to your detriment, and it's not necessarily helpful. Does it look cool? Sure, to the right buyer, but I think I'd rather have, you know, an SLT or a Denali based on which way your budget swings and your interests. As far as, you know, how much this particular AT4 is rated to tow, one really nice thing about GM is that they actually put a sticker on the driver's door jamb for each vehicle that is specific to this truck's VIN that will tell you how much axle weight you can have on each axle, how much payload you can have inside the vehicle, how much tongue weight you can have, and how much trailer weight you can have on the hitch. So this is not me saying, oh, the Yukon is rated for this weight, your mileage may vary, or oh, the AT4 is rated for this weight, your mileage may vary. This exact Yukon I'm driving, in the door jamb sticker, says it is rated to pull 8,200 pounds with a 10% tongue weight, so 820 pounds of tongue weight. And obviously you have to consider your payload as part of that. In my case, I really don't, because there's no one else in here except me, and the only stuff I have in the cargo area is my overnight bag and a case of beer for the racetrack. So not a lot of weight to worry about. But if you think you're gonna have a Yukon like this loaded up with, you know, 4 to 5 passengers plus all that tongue weight, you really need to check and make sure that whichever vehicle you're buying has the payload to accommodate both that maximum tongue weight and the weight of all your people or all your cargo. So in some cases you have to do some math yourself or consider the options that are on the specific vehicle. If you're buying a Yukon or a Yukon XL, that's the stretched model of this that just gives you more space behind the third row, just open the driver's door. It's a sticker right next to the typical stickers you see for tire pressure and VIN and all that good stuff. So you can see the actual rated weights. Now, the trailer I'm pulling is right around 7,000 pounds, so we're about 1,200 pounds under the stated maximum capacity for this truck. And tongue weight wise, I've measured it recently, and tongue weight sits around 670, 680. I am running weight distribution because it's generally a good idea if you're pulling more than half of the vehicle's rated capacity. So in this case, we're over 4,100 pounds, and it just helps send some of that tongue weight toward the front axle to help you keep better steering control and keep the whole rig a little more balanced. Now, you're gonna say, well, the Yukon AT4 has 4-corner air suspension at load levels, why are you bothering with weight distribution? Load leveling is not weight distribution. They are similar in notion in that they both get the tow vehicle and the trailer to be a little more flat, but one of the two actually helps send weight forward, whereas the other just helps it look good and stay leveled and balanced. So yes, the airbags will help prevent sag, but you really need weight distribution to help with that tongue weight and keep everything balanced weight-wise over your 2 axles. That way your steering still feels nice and controlled up front. Otherwise you can get things feeling a little light up here, and that's never a good time. Now, braking I also want to talk about, because the truck stops fine. The brake pedal is not spongy, but it is not confidence inspiring. It's almost as if the spring that's under there that makes it return to the top, it's almost too stiff of a spring, and it takes a lot of effort to get pushed, and then the pads don't have the best initial bite, so it feels like you have to push a little bit through the first chunk of the brake pedal travel before you start really slowing the vehicle down, and it feels that way with or without the trailer attached. I drove it around DC last night and it felt very similar. Will it stop? Yes. Will it stop in a decent stopping distance? Yes. But it's a weird feel, and if you're owning one of these vehicles, you're going to get used to it, but I have driven other tow vehicles and large SUVs that have a better pedal feel, and I think half of the problem is just the pads and their initial bite characteristics. The other half is however the pedal is set up with, whatever return spring. It might just be kind of heavy. It might need to break in, but this truck does have 7,300 miles on it already, so hopefully it would have broken in a little bit sooner than that. As far as hooking up the trailer, there is a covered panel at the back of the truck that covers the trailer hitch, so you have to remove that plastic panel. And we've seen this with other tow vehicles. The Ford Expedition has one, the Toyota Land Cruiser, the Lexus LX, they all have these fascias that just keep the bumper looking a little nicer when you're not towing anything. You don't have the hitch exposed. And thankfully this one is really easy to remove. Toyota and Lexus are a complete pain. They make you get out a flathead screwdriver and pop these little push pins, which you're going to break or lose. Thankfully GM has these 2 big hand screws that you can just grab with your thumb and index finger and twist about half a turn, pull the whole panel off. So no big deal there. I was able to use my locking hitch pin. You have to be careful with how you orient the lock on it, but it did fit. It's a little bit of a tight fit in there because they do try to cover everything with the bumper cover, but it did work. And then once you are hooked up and plugged in, the Yukon AT4 has a standard trailer brake controller, so it's down here by my left knee. When you plug the trailer in for the first time, it says, hey, we noticed on the infotainment screen that you hooked up a trailer. Do you want to set this up as a new trailer? It'll track your mileage, it'll track any trailer maintenance you need to do, or you can just set it up as a guest trailer. So if you go to U-Haul and rent something, or in my case, this isn't my actual Yukon, I'm giving it back, so I just set it up as a guest trailer. But in any case, it confirms that you're all set up, it checks all of your lighting and your wiring, it says there's no issues here, and then you can configure down by your left knee how much boost you want on the trailer brakes, and the emergency controller is also down here. So it seems like an odd place for it, but it is actually pretty easy because it's truly directly above your left knee, so you can find it with your left hand, and if you have to squeeze the emergency stopping plunger doodad, you can certainly do that easily enough. The other thing I want to point out, because I've ragged on several manufacturers for having terrible backup cameras in brand new expensive vehicles, the backup camera and overall 360-degree camera view on this truck is excellent. It's very high resolution, and what I like is when you put it in reverse, there are several options on the bottom of the screen for how you want the camera angle to be. The standard one is fine in most cases, but if you're hooking up a trailer, you get close, and then, oh, I want to get closer zoomed in on the trailer ball so I can make sure I just get right lined up and drop it right on. There is a button you can push that will just zoom right in on the trailer ball. It gets a little more pixelated, but super easy to see still. And I was able to hook this trailer up first try without getting out and, having some inaccuracy in the camera for what was being shown versus where the trailer tongue actually was sitting. And then the final thing with all of this, of course, that's important to mention is the wheelbase. So with all of these tow vehicles, if you don't need the longer Yukon, the Yukon XL, you can get this short wheelbase Yukon. And this is the equivalent to the Chevy Tahoe, whereas the Yukon XL is the equivalent to a Chevy Suburban. And one perk of getting the Yukon XL or the Suburban, either way, is that you get more storage space behind the third row. So for families, everyone's going to say, oh, I want the Yukon XL because I have, the need to carry 5 to 7 people around and then have all their stuff in the back. If we want a road trip with 6 people, you need the extra space for cargo of the XL. But the other big benefit is that you actually get a longer wheelbase with the Yukon XL versus the regular Yukon that I'm driving. So that will help with trailer stability, especially if you've got a big enclosed trailer like this. I think this regular Yukon, being the AT4, being a little softer, I think is a little overburdened by the trailer I've got. It's not unsafe, but I wouldn't call this the most relaxing towing experience I've had. It's just a little soft. Given it's soft, the wheelbase feels a little short. I think if you had the Yukon XL in AT4, it would feel a lot better. Or I think your ultimate tow rig, if you want a Yukon, would be an XL in whatever trim you want that's not the AT4, because it'll be a little less off-road focused, a little more on-road focused and stiffer where it matters without being uncomfortable. All right, and that is it for this review of the 2021 GMC Yukon AT4 towing an enclosed trailer. Thank you so much for coming along. As always, please be sure to subscribe right here on YouTube. Turn on that notification bell so you don't miss a single thing coming up. If you'd like to follow us elsewhere, we can be found on Facebook and Instagram at Out Motorsports. And if you'd like to connect with other LGBT automotive enthusiasts and motorsports competitors, please head over to outmotorsports.com. We have a whole community over there and we would love to get to know you. Until next time, please stay safe, be well, and we'll see you again soon.